From Corolla One Studios in Glendale, California, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, Danny Trejo. With Gina Grad on news, Bald Brian on sound effects, and Dave Damashek's here for good sports. And now, back in stock and ready to rock. Fuck you, New York Times. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get on. Mandate. Get it on. Thanks for tuning in and thanks for sharing. We love that about you, right, Gina Grad?
That's right.
And mute Brian. Bald Brian is, he dumped a
What the hell
shake.
happened?
He dumped a sensible shake for lunch on his equipment.
This is a fucking comedy of errors. I'm working so hard to put on weight, right? The part of my medication is weight loss and loss of appetite, right? And I am my weight is the lowest it's ever been. My doctor's like, yeah, you got to put on some weight. I've talked to Vinny about putting on weight with protein and fats and trying to stay keto during this whole thing. So I'm making shakes every day. You know, it's the protein powder Vinny recommended. It's Laird's superfood coconut stuff, which you guys have there at the studio. Mm-hmm. It's heavy cream. It's butter. It's collagen. It's everything. It's trying to put healthy pounds on me. And I get it right here as I'm setting everything up, and it's got a straw, and this little part of my sleeve
Caught the straw.
I just hooked the straw. Thank silver lining, I suppose. It seems to have missed all of the valuable equipment.
Well, I'd say that's a silver lining.
It's a huge mess, and I'm sitting in shake. But here's my commitment to you, listeners. I'm here.
So what's in the shake? What's the base? What do we start off with?
Ice and water, obviously, to stay hydrated. The Vinny recommended a protein powder that he likes, so I got the protein powder.
Is it the egg white?
No, he said egg white's okay, but he recommended the whey protein powder. Okay. And then the scoop of that, scoop of collagen peptides, coconut collagen peptides.
I don't know the collagen. What does the collagen do?
I don't know. It's designed for hair and nails and teeth. It's that kind of. It's
collagen.
And then the collagen and the Laird Hamilton stuff, which we have at the studio, which is MCT oil, coconut oil, then actual MCT oil, then a slice of butter just for calories and fat, and then peanut butter, a scoop of peanut butter, an all-natural peanut butter, of course, a little bit of either half and half or heavy cream, depending on what I'm feeling that day. 3 drops of stevia, just because it's unflavored protein powder. Vinny recommends the nut, the vanilla, and the chocolate and shit. And I think that is pretty much it.
Brian, do you do the show from the toilet?
I am pooping a lot.
Did it? Oh, well, look, as long as we're going to talk about it, I wasn't really going to talk about it because the only one in my house who listens to the show is Olga. And then Olga likes to bust my chops when I come walking into the kitchen, but I had to do one of those chick jogger poop on the fly moves yesterday for the first time in my entire career.
You soiled La Cañada?
Where'd the poop go?
Well, I don't know. Where do dogs go after they die?
I didn't know if it went into a receptacle of some kind or into some ivy.
They go to a mythical ranch. I had made the mistake of downing a big glass of iced coffee before I hit the road.
That'll do it.
It was about 7 in the evening, was plenty light outside. I hit the road, and I'd got a little distance from my home, too far. There's a point in aviation, and it's the same as shitting in your own toilet. In aviation, any pilot will tell you, like a commercial airline pilot will go, once you get to 140 knots and 3,000 feet down the thing, it doesn't matter if the engine catches on fire. We're going. We're not, there's no turning back.
No return.
You just literally throttle up and go. We can't stop the plane while we're on the runway. We'll go into the bay. That's how it works. So I was past that point. I could not get home. I couldn't get home.
Your engine was on fire.
And my stomach was like grumbling and gurgling and everything. And I was like, oh, dear God, now what? Where am I? I started looking around, and there was a big open field and with some shrubs and stuff next to the freeway. Sadly, a church next to it. And
not the church.
The church is always empty, right? The church is always empty. So I get out, and I literally run to the top of this field. It was elevated, and there's some shrubbery on the side. I get as far off the road as I can get. But as I get there, I realize there's an elderly couple in a lone van in this church. There's no other parking. There's nothing. And the woman gets out, and she's standing in the parking lot. She's kind of looking at me like, what was the guy doing in the vacant lot, standing with his back to the freeway, you know? And then the older guy gets out, and they have a dog, and I'm just staring at them, and they're just looking at me, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, there's nobody. The church isn't even open. I don't know what they're doing. There's no other cars there, anything. Eventually,
maybe they're for the same reason.
No. Eventually, my stomach's like gurgling the whole time, and eventually they get their dog and they start walking toward this sort of wooded park area. And man, I just drop them and go. Oh man, yeah, it was big time. No,
God understands.
What's the cleanup process?
I knew this question. I knew this question would need to be answered.
It's a logical follow-up.
I thankfully have a almost full bottle of water with me, which is a lifesaver.
Is this a DIY bidet situation?
No, it's grab a fast food wrapper blowing around the lot, use it, and then use the water to try to clean myself, try to clean the business end of my hand up with it. Later on, when I was walking, I happened upon another church, and this place had a drinking fountain in front. So I was able to really rub a dub. Oh yeah.
But this just into the Southland, a rash of vandalism at local churches in La Cañada.
And again, I'm not
desecrations.
I'm not. My thing is like, I'm not delicately wired, as anyone has heard me talk for a long time. But it's just Olga's here. She listens, and she's going to say something in the kitchen, and it's going to be embarrassing. That's why I was going to play it close to the vest, but now. After Brian brought up the protein shake thing, I think my silence would be deafening. You know what I mean? If I didn't talk about shitting in a vacant lot yesterday.
Yeah. You have a duty.
I don't want to deal with that online barrage of what? Well, what about you? How come? Anyway.
Who among us?
This was left in my shake. This is my lunch.
There's 3/4 of an inch at the bottom of the cup. All right, we had there's something I wanted to play, which I heard on a radio show. I can't remember which one, but there was an incident a few days back. Set it up, Max Zapata.
All right, so this is the New York Community Education Council meeting where all the people in the district, this is District 2, get together and kind of talk about lesson plan, future, things like that. So last month, they did a meeting, and Kayla put a picture up, and while they were doing a meeting, one of the people, I have to allow him to share. One of the people in the meeting had a black baby on his lap. He is white, and so while they were talking, he had a black baby who would come on and off of his lap, bouncing him around. And you'll see the picture there. Mm-hmm. And people are kind of bothered by the image of this. And then there was a point somewhere in the meeting where they're talking about racism, and he makes the joke, well, my living room seems to be integrated right now. And so there's some tension building. So then they have another meeting at the end of June, and they decided to address what happened at the previous meeting. And Kane will play you a clip of one of the people just being
You got to do the math. First off, did the apartment come with a black baby, or did he?
So the math is, and he did say this, it's his friend's nephew. So his friend was over with her nephew.
All right, so he picked up the baby and was bouncing it on his knee. And now, we're talking about, put the clip down for a second, and you have to hear this through the eyes of this. Remember we were drilling down a week ago where I said the mayor of Oakland, even though she found out that the hoops that were hung on the tree were just hoops so that people near the park could exercise, that didn't matter. She was still moving ahead with an investigation. And she said how important it was to have this sort of presumption of guilt before, as we move forward, to find this stuff that doesn't fucking exist. What an insane waste of time and resources, but also, sweetheart, you're running a city and this is the way you think? I've been telling you guys for a long time, when people say, you go, oh, the guy made a joke, or you thought he said this, but he didn't say that, or whatever it is, and people go, yeah, but he shouldn't have done it anyway. And I go, why? Why? Unless you've actually done something that's bad. And because people go, yeah, but you have to understand the optics. And I've always pushed back against that. Like, because this is where it leads. It leads to people wanting to tear down something or investigate something or criticize somebody or call them racist when nothing exists. And then people go, but you should have known better anyway. But I don't know what that means. And who, does anyone want to live in that society where nothing happened, but you should have not done it anyway?
Should have known better.
Yeah, all right.
Should have known better about nothing.
We'll play you the clip from the gal who took a little umbrage with the guy and the kid on the knee.
It's racist. It hurts people when they see a white man bouncing a brown baby on their lap and they don't know the context. That is harmful. That makes people cry. It makes people log out of our meetings. They don't come here. They don't come to our meetings, and they give me a hard time because I'm not vocal enough, and I'm not trying to be a martyr. I'm trying to illustrate to you that you think you think I'm a social justice warrior, and you think I'm being patronizing, and I'm getting pressure for not being enough of an advocate. And I take that to heart, and that hurts me, and I have to learn to make how to be a better white person.
I would like
you
to know.
You don't have people telling you that.
I would like to know before this meeting adjourns how having my friend's nephew on my lap was hurtful to people and was racist. Can you please explain?
Tom, I've explained it to you. You can Google, you can read a book. Read Ibram Kendi. Read White Fragility. Read How to Talk to White People. No, it's not my job to.
All right.
So that's just a portion of it.
She's a teacher? She's an educator?
Yeah, and this is an hour. This is a 90-minute meeting, and this yelling went on for about an hour.
This is the beginning.
Yeah, and actually there were multiple teachers just as fired up as she was through it as well. So
just as fired up as
on
she
an island.
They all took her side. Which, by the way, they didn't take her side. They don't want to get yelled at. Which is a scary direction we're going in society.
But she didn't take her side either, because if you could actually decipher what she was shrieking, first of all, who's the racist? The one with the black friends or the one without the black friends? But if you could actually hear anything she was saying, which was difficult, she was yelling about the pressure that she's under to do more. She wasn't, could you hear that? Like that inner turmoil she was having? I am being pressured to do more, to say that you are wrong, and I am angry, was what she was saying. She wasn't really yelling at the guy.
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean? She was confused.
All roads lead to narcissism. So all this stuff you're feeling, it's like, how am I supposed to feel? It's like, well, what's this have to do with you?
Right. That's
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Also, the same teacher said, one of her quotes was, I have 40 plus years of white supremacy I need to undo. And then another teacher says, yeah, my friends were texting me and I was so embarrassed to tell them about what happened, and it's your fault. So it was odd.
Okay, I'm going to come at this from a different angle. Basing my opinion on the 30 seconds we just saw. Okay, so this dude it seems as though he used the kid as a prop, or just kind of like there's no context for him to have a baby, let alone a friend's baby on his lap. So he's kind of look at me guy like, I don't have fucking any time for this person. That said, I agree with you guys 100%. This is a wild overreaction and frankly feels like a non sequitur almost. Like, I don't know what she's mad about. I don't know what makes it racist, but again, this guy needs some blame too. This is look at me guy, or this is hey, I'm funny prop guy. It's like, oh, all right, okay, I don't have any time for this fucker.
Do you think he was using him as a prop?
Well, the fact, like, what context is there for me to have my niece on my lap during the show? Keep him in another room. There's no context for that.
Well, I mean,
do you guys disagree?
Well, I don't. First off, I have no idea what he's doing. If you're in a small apartment and you have a, I don't know, 3-year-old or 2-year-old kind of trotting around, just sort of, I don't know. It's sort of like people's dogs show up in their thing, like because the dog walks up to them and then they start petting them or something. So if the kid walked up to him and was like interacting with him, he might have thrown him on his knee. I don't know if it's grandstanding or showboating. If he went,
Tessa has been all over this fucking house the last 3 months. Have you seen her on video once? No, I was like, keep her in another room. I try and keep some sort of decorum for the show.
But if there is someone over, and you know this, I'm sure, Brian, we experience it here. If you're in an open room and there are people around and a little one sees other faces on a screen, you know, he may have been milling around and put him on his lap, like, you know, to see the other. We don't know. We
ultimately don't know. Was it more than once though that he had the kid in the thing?
Not sure.
It was on and off. Like, I guess the kid would just keep coming because he's 1, so he would just walk up to his lap and put his arms up like he wanted to be held, and so he'd put him on his lap, bounce him, put him down, and then he would come back up again. And
what are you gonna do? Smack him away, Brian?
I take back everything I said.
Yeah. Brian, this is why Brian keeps a fireplace poker with him, because in case a loving young child approaches him, he can hit him with the.
She knows now.
Yeah, you can upgrade to what's called a bang stick. Bang sticks are what you do with sharks. It's a stick with a shotgun shell on the end of it, and pow!
Really? I didn't know that.
You guys ever hear of a bang stick?
No, I
thought you were talking about the things at like Seahawks games, like the thunder sticks.
If you look up bang stick, you will freak out. You will see people put a shotgun shell on the side of a shark. But anyway, what did the
Chris, put your safe search on.
What did the aunt say?
So Thomas is beginning a little bit of attention. So he brings in the aunt and they do a video together. And I should just avoid confusion. The baby's name is John Mayer. So when they say John Mayer, they're talking about the baby.
Okay.
That's cool.
It is even times that John Mayer would motion or insinuate for Tom to pick him up because Tom had him on the computer doing whatever he wants, and he was interested in the computer bright lights. He's 1 year old. So I don't think there's anything wrong that went on that night, but the fact that middle-aged white women are telling me how to feel. And I'm a strong black woman. I'm a strong black young mother. I don't need anyone to tell me how I feel. I wouldn't let anyone disrespect my nephew.
Well, there you go. So she's
and just like the loops in the park, the case has been solved.
Yes.
You know?
We don't have to move forward with the investigation, but I will say, sort of like the Ferguson effect in policing, cops not wanting to get out of their cars or do proactive policing, the murder rate goes up. And in terms of race relations, like being scared to reach out to a young black kid or put him on your lap or even the optics of whatever. You know what I mean? Like everyone going, I don't want to take a picture. I don't want it to seem like whatever. I was talking to Leno the other day, and we're sort of talking about everyone sort of reading everything into everything, and he was doing like car karaoke or whatever. I don't remember what the bit was, but
carpool karaoke.
He had a like a black backup singers in the car behind him, and he was singing some song that some old, Sam and Dave song or Sam Cooke song or something, and it was like leader of the pack or the leader, and someone's like saying to him, "Are you sure you like the optics of the white guy saying leader or Boss Man or something like that with the black people. And if we're going to start reading it into we'll find it everywhere. And we'll find it everywhere. And once we find it everywhere, sensible people who don't feel like getting screamed at by chatty Karens, those people are just going to go, you know what, fuck it. Like, don't bring the kid over.
Not worth it.
Yeah. It's not worth it.
Why risk it?
I don't want to do it. And then there's going to be like an element of like, I don't want to be, let's just stay away. You know, black people go over there, white people go over here. I don't want to get into this. I don't want to make jokes. I don't want something to come across as the wrong way. I don't want to have somebody, it's going to work that way. People are wired that way.
Yep. Yeah, it's essentially saying the kid doesn't need another loving adult presence in his life. It's not worth it. What damage did you just do to a 1-year-old who didn't deserve it?
As it pertains to Leno, there's a context. The song requires a certain sound. That sound is black backup singers, and they're called backup singers.
I know, but again, someone's just trying to find it. And if you're looking for something, you will find it, especially if you're looking to be insulted or slighted or whatever that is.
Well, and this might be an extremely naive question. And if I thought for a few minutes, I'm sure I could come up with my own answer. But if you're always looking for something, which means you'll always find it, why are we always looking for this? Why aren't we looking? Why isn't there any balance? It's not that we have to look for one or the other, but why are we always looking for the problem?
Well,
interesting.
There's a business to some degree. It's a business. This sort of this country being a racist country is a business. The book that she spat out was called White Fragility. I think it's an insane book by all accounts. I've not read it. Written by a middle-aged white woman who has been selling millions of copies, just describing what a horrible racist country we're in and then how to go about it. So if you looked at the New York Times bestseller list a week and a half ago or whenever I was supposed to be on it, out of the 15 books, 11 of them were race-based. So you want to move some units? You got to keep this thing going. CNN works, MSNBC, a lot of the news outlets, a lot of the pundits on TV, Al Sharpton, these guys, they have a job. This is their job. This is a big deal, and it works well for the media as well. So we're going to keep pedaling this bike. I told everybody when I was a kid, there was a mark, and I think you'd have to ask anyone maybe over 40, but it's kind of hard to say when is a nation not racist anymore? Like, how do we do it? What's that finish line? There isn't a straight line. We've had slavery, Jim Crow. When is any nation? Let's just forget about our nation. Let's say Germany or France or something. When are they not racist against a group? Okay, let's say, I'll go deep here, but let's just say Germany was always racist against Prussians. I don't even know if this works, but they hate it. But then you find out one year that the president of Germany, they elected a Prussian guy, 2 years in a row or 2 cycles in a row, or the chancellor, whatever the hell you are of Germany. But the point is this, you'd say, all right, well, that country has fixed a lot of its issues with Prussians, obviously, if they voted 2 times. Right. So when I was a kid, it was always first black president of the United States. That's our mark. That's in a world where there's no measuring sticks to figure out when racism is over. We use that. So when I was 14, it'd be like, is this country ready for a black president, or would we do it, or could we do it, or would he be assassinated, or whatever that is. But that was always the mark that comedians used and spokespeople when we have a then. And so we elected a black president to 2 terms, and then we upped it. After that, we kicked it up another notch after the black president. So it seems to me mostly self-imposed, as you saw there. It's gonna continue, and I would suggest, whether it's with your country or it's with your spouse. I keep going micro and macro, but we all know that feeling of having a relationship and kind of looking for something. Maybe it wasn't a good relationship, but you do that, or your parents, or vice versa, or whatever it is, stepdad, where you go, this person always is fill in the blank, lazy or late or not organized or something. And then you show up and you go, oh, look at them. They left a half can of soda out on the thing. Look at it. They're so unorganized. I wish I could get there. Yeah. And then at some point you see somebody else, the maid or the kid or something, walk back and pick up the can of soda and walk out of the room. And you go, oh, it wasn't even the person. But I was trying to build a case. We're all guilty of it.
Yeah, your biases reverse engineer. You know what I mean? You start filling in. Everything starts to fit that narrative because you believe it so much.
Right. And so it shall be found. It'll be found if you're trying to build a case against your spouse, if you're looking for it, you'll build that case. Mm-hmm. And if you're trying to do it against society, you'll build that case.
I don't know if you've seen any of it yet, but I do have a clip of Terry Crews and Don Lemon for the news that I'll be very curious to get your reaction of.
Well, we'll save it for the news since the news is coming pretty soon. You have a bang stick. Sorry. It is a...
What is it?
It's a stick that takes shotgun shells at the end of it.
But what does that mean? Yeah.
Like the penguin.
And you use it when you're dealing with sharks. I used to be able to do it back when sharks were evil. Now sharks are good. Same shark. But the shark gets too close to you, pow, you punch it, you jab at it with the stick, and it blows a hole in them.
Damn.
It
repels them.
Right, but it kills them, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you only use it once. Mm-hmm. It's not like a warning shot. It just kills them.
Yeah. And it works the same for kids. That's all, I think, to come full circle here.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Anyway, Brian, go on Amazon.
There's footage of, it's a little scary, but there's footage of people underwater using a bang stick, just popping a hole in a shark. That's
if you're going to do that, if you're going to go into their house and do that, then into your house and take your head off. Why are you going underwater to shoot them? That's where they live.
Well, the movie Jaws did not do sharks any favor at all, because after that fucking movie, people are just like, yeah, kill sharks. They're trying to kill us. Like that. It was game on with sharks. Oh. Hey, Victor.
Sir.
What's going on?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Honor to speak to all three of you.
Thanks.
Something that's been on my mind, and it's really been brought home with this coronavirus epidemic, is how there's so much information out there, just readily available to everybody, and yet we seem to know less. We kind of joke about Googling me right, but like that you can really do that. And again, using this coronavirus epidemic as an example, you can look up actual data that'll make you think the sky is falling. And then you can look up data that will contradict that data or explain it away, and you can do that for both sides. And so, I don't know if it's so much of a question, but just something that's just been on my mind. It's really been brought home, and thought it'd be an interesting topic for you guys.
Yeah, well, I agree. I've been saying for a long time, everyone's going to have a good kind of a calibrated horse sense, and you're going to have to kind of be able to step back and look at things and also think about motivations and who's saying it and why they might be saying it. And now we're living in a world where we used to live in a world where a football game ended and the Patriots beat the Rams 13-3. We're now living in a world where the football game ends, the Patriots beat the Rams 13-3, and then someone else is saying, no, the Rams scored 17 points. And now I'm going, wait a second. I thought it was 13-3. And they go, yeah, there is no scoreboard. There is no official record. All we have is a group of people who say the Rams won and another group that says the Patriots won. And now you have to kind of look at the game film. You have to kind of go, I don't know the score anymore, but let me see who's moving the ball. Let me, so the Patriots had 421 total yards and the Rams had 161? Yeah, but they still won.
Special teams, man.
Yeah, let me take a look and see about passing yards and special teams and so the
turnovers.
So the Patriots punted twice and the Rams punted 41 times. Yeah. Yeah, but they still won. So you have to start digging through the data now because each group is just going to say their side won. But you start looking at that data, start looking at the game stats and completion percentage and, converted third downs and stuff like that. You can start to get to a picture. And also keep in mind that the Rams fans are going to say, oh, you want data? I got data. Rams sacked Brady 2 times. And you got to go, okay. But that didn't mean he didn't throw 4 touchdowns. Yeah, no, right. Let me do another one. They are obviously, and the Rams, they average 4.7 yards per punt return, and the Patriots averaged 3.2. Like, yeah. But that doesn't mean they've won. Like,
right.
Let me go find some of my own stats, not the stats that you're presenting to me. And I think it's that. I think it's a little bit of Victor, if you're still there. I think what you have to do is you'll get with COVID, you'll go, okay, we got new cases, and you go, okay, that sounds bad, and then. But there's other things that sound less bad, like when you go, what is the average age of the new case? Or what is the death rate? What is the number of deaths compared to new cases? Or stuff like that. And then you just have to sift through your own data. You can arrive at your own conclusions once you do that. But keep in mind, you're going to get a proclamation, which is Rams won, and then you're going to get data that works with that theme. Here's the data that works with the theme of Rams won, or vice versa. And now you're going to have to take a deeper dive into all the data.
Right.
I tried to save this.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Oh, I just want to tell you real quick. I looked for. I sent a picture a while ago to Chris. I can't find it on my phone. But to your exact point, I think I showed it to Brian at one point. I have 2 TVs on at the news station, Fox and CNN. And at the exact same time, I took a picture. They were both about coronavirus. The CNN side said something to the effect of magical thinking will not cure us of coronavirus. The Fox side said, mass hysteria over coronavirus. And this was on at the exact same time and 2 totally different takes on something that we're all here to see, but we're looking at it through very different lenses.
The Fox one actually said Merlin cures coronavirus.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yes.
I got cut off at the Chiron.
Yes, a wizard. So is Merlin a magician or a wizard?
Wizard.
He was a wizard.
It's okay.
All right. Well, he
magic.
can. Well, that's what you do when you're a wizard. You do magic.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You cure things. All right. So So now take a look at those 2 headlines and then go delve into the data a little, and that'll be helpful. And then also, horse sense. Remember, I know. The younger people I know who got this were Bean of Kevin and Bean, and now. Brian Callen and Brendan Schaub got it as well. And I go, okay, they got it. Are they recovered? Like, did it kill them? Like, what happened? What kind of shape are they in? What kind of shape? And Bean told us in pretty good detail what he had to deal with. But again, I've had the bad flu, and for the folks that I know who have got it, or the ones that it's passed through them, it still sounds like a version of the bad flu that I had a number of years ago. Although, if you're in a nursing home, It's going to be something different. All right, let me hit SimpliSafe. Number one sign of bad home security system. It's complicated, and you never use it. You need something easy. SimpliSafe, it's right in the title. Simple and safer. Designed to be easy to use while protecting your whole home 24/7. You can order online, open the box, place the sensors, peel and stick, plug it in. No technician or salesperson will come and disrupt your house. No outrageous monthly fees or multi-year contracts. We use it here. We've always used it. It's so easy. You don't have to drill. You don't have to pull wires. You don't have to crawl around in the crawl space under the house or in the attic. Named the best overall home security, by the way, 2020 by U.S. and World Report. 24/7 professional monitoring and emergency dispatch starts at just 50 cents a day, right, Dawson?
Head to simplisafe.com/Adam and get a free HD camera for our listeners at simplisafe.com/Adam to make sure they know our show sent you.
Real fast, just because Dan's been on hold. Dan, what do I think about Stanford cutting a bunch of sports due to coronavirus and money, like wrestling?
Yeah. Do you want to see the other sports that were cut?
Sure.
The other sports are really weird. It's like co-ed. Hang on, I got to go look at the list again. It's co-ed or men's and women's fencing was cut.
Fencing?
Fencing, exactly. And I know you have a lot of thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, I do. It's in the book, actually. Well, Dan, we're kind of up against it. We got the news, and we got Danny Trejo as well. So I'll let you get the list together and call back. But yeah, my book, I'm Your Emotional Support Animal, back finally at Amazon and totally restocked. So get that. There's a whole section on fencing that's in there as well. All right, let's take a quick. Oh, you got a bang stick video?
Oh no.
I don't like this one. He's just fucking with whatever that is.
Yeah.
What the fuck? From your description, he was just sort of. All right.
That's a horrible guy.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah. All right.
Now I hate Chris.
All right. It's a stick with a shotgun shell on the end of it. Home defense might work okay.
I was going to say, why don't we all have one of those?
I don't know.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah. I mean, you got
to get close enough.
I got to tell you, I think everyone's greatest fear is having their car surrounded by an angry mob these days. You pop out of that car and give one of those angry mobsters a shot with the bang stick, I'd say message sent.
Yeah, people disperse.
Usually. Okay. All right, quick break.
You can buy them on Amazon. You don't require a license or anything.
There you go. Oh, just a driver's license. All right, we'll take a quick break, come back to the news right after this.
The Adam Carolla Show salutes the winners of the COVID-19 pandemic. Brian Bishop. When the work from home orders came down, we took it seriously and took your health into consideration. You have a compromised immune system and a brain tumor. But what we didn't know you had is several houses across the state of California. So while that studio we built for you at your primary residence remained unused during this holiday weekend, you took 5 days to work from your other home, where you don't have access to a good microphone or any of the other stuff you need for your job. But hey, coronavirus. Congratulations, Brian. You are the winner of COVID-19.
Oh, Dawson, after he spilled the shake on his lap, I thought for sure you're going to bump that until tomorrow. The shake is still wet.
I was going to bump it, but then Brian said, "Hey, listeners, this is what I do for you." And that ruined it for me. I had to play it.
All right.
It's an honor just to be nominated.
That was good.
All right, Gina, what do we got?
All right.
Give me the news with Grad. News with Gina Grad. Breaking viral, all those crazy Trump tweets. Give me news with Gina Grad. Trouble in the Middle East. Celebrity drunk meltdowns. Need news with Gina Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
Well, we'll jump off with this since I mentioned it earlier. Terry Crews did a little battle with CNN host Don Lemon Monday night over the Black Lives Matter movement. And, you know, he's I would love to use any other phrase, but come under fire for a series of tweets warning that Black Lives Matter doesn't morph into Black Lives Better. A lot of people have pushed back against that. During the interview, the two went back and forth over what Black Lives Matter means, what the movement means, what should be important to us. So the interview lasts around 10 minutes. I cut 90 seconds, and you'll see the two sort of struggle to find common ground as to who falls under what umbrella, and Don is just not having what Terry's saying.
This is the thing, Don. You know, Black people need to hold other Black people accountable. I said this the same thing. This is the Black America's version of the Me Too movement. If anything is going to change, we ourselves need to look at our own communities and look at each other and say, this thing cannot go down. And this is the thing, too. There are a lot of great, great people there who are held hostage by people who literally are running these neighborhoods with violence and then claiming that Black Lives Matter. When you look at the parents of these little kids who are saying, hey, man, why aren't they speaking up for me, too? And this is what I'm saying. When I look at this whole thing about, you know, it's about who is controlling the narrative. It's got to be all Black Lives Matter. And what's happened is that because I even challenged it, because I even questioned and warned people,
Terry,
I became like if I told you to wear a mask,
Terry,
they want to kick you out.
You're a high-profile person. You're writing things out there. You know you're going to get backlash. You know people are going to respond to what you're saying on Twitter. So I don't think you should be surprised by that. I have a skin as tough as an armadillo because of what I do, and I think maybe you should adapt that. But here's what I have to say. The Black Lives Matter movement was started because it was talking about police brutality. If you want an all Black Lives Matter movement that talks about gun violence in communities, including, you know, Black communities, then start that movement.
Interesting. You know, Don Lemon famously, Max Pat, I'll put you on the spot, but God, a number of years ago, maybe like 2013 or something like that, did a whole like Black people get your shit together, started his program with like Black folk get it together speech. I remember it from the time, and it was a number of years ago, but he did not that pertains exactly to this conversation, but there is one that you'd be kind of surprised of him. I don't know what it was called, but anyway, you can look for it. Yeah, see, didn't
that seem like a little bit of a nutty answer of, well, if you want all Black lives to matter, you should start that movement. Like, what?
Well, there's kind of a catch-22, which is Black Lives Matter is there to address police brutality toward Black people.
Yes.
Couple of things, though, I would argue. If you go to their webpage or go to anyone's webpage and you have some stuff on Palestinians in Israel and how that should be addressed, and then the Black family unit and how the nuclear family needs to be replaced by, well, that's not about cops. And that's not about cops brutalizing Black. What does Israel and Palestine have to do with cops? So if you go, hey, it's just about this movement, then I think we can all respect that. But if you open yourself up to Israel and Palestine and family units, well, now you're kind of saying we've expanded, we've diversified, and anyone who's then observing the movement can then everything lands somewhere, you know, inner city cops brutalizing Black people and whatever policies going on in Israel as it pertains to Palestine, everything lands in between those two agendas, right? I mean, and they're also a problem, too, because you didn't name the group Brutal Cops Gotta Stops. Ooh. Write that down. Brutal cops got to stop. You know how Jewish guys, wrote a lot of Christmas songs? Mm-hmm. Why can't white guys come up with chants for people on the street, about cops, for black folk,
Absolutely. Sure.
Brutal cops, gots to stops. Let's see, we pluralize gots? Got to stops? Okay, point is this. If you've called it Black Lives Matter, and sadly and unfortunately, a whole bunch of black lives were taken in a short period of time on the streets of Chicago and New York and many other, Baltimore and St. Louis and many other places. So when the title is Black Lives Matter and there's a bunch of 2-year-old and 10-year-old and 12-year-old black people that have been gunned down in the streets, then unfortunately that's going to bleed into your title.
Right.
And that's what's going on as well.
I'm on the blacklivesmatter.com website. I wonder if it was Whitlock, right? He was talking about the Palestinian part and the whatever part. It's either been struck. I've read this now a couple of times. I don't see it. So it's either been taken off there for obvious reasons or it was never a part of it. I don't know. We have to verify that somehow.
Well, it was on the site. Otherwise, it'd be insane.
On the What We Believe section. And they have the nuclear family thing. Remember they talked about, we reject the Western prescribed nuclear family. It feels like the message has been co-opted a little bit. You know what I mean? Like almost like when you propose a bill in Congress and there's a lot of pork on it, like things that have nothing to do with it or things that are tangential related at best.
Well, that's the thing. So it's called Black Lives Matters. It's about brutal cops. But then there's a bunch of tangential stuff on the thing as well, like Brian said, like pork on the bill. And so now people are adding black lives not shot by cops onto the mix, which it's a pretty easy math to do for most people. And that's where the pushback is coming. Either way, you got to stay on point, people. Otherwise, you're going to get Terry Crews pissed off. Sorry.
Nobody wants that.
Yes.
Mary Kay Letourneau. Rest in peace. She was the former school teacher who made headlines in 1997 when she was convicted of having sex with a 12-year-old student whom she eventually married. She died of cancer on Tuesday. She was 58. Letourneau was 34 and married with 4 kids when she started a sexual relationship with 6th grade student Vili Falau. The relationship continued while she spent 7 years in prison. They got married. They had kids. She was released. They had 2 kids together, I think 2 daughters. They divorced eventually in 2019. And Letourneau said she turned to Vili when she was having trouble in her first marriage. And remember, the cottage industry that blew up around this story, Only One Crime, Love. That book came out. The USA Network did All American Girl. There was, countless movies of the week about this.
Yeah, it's so weird. I mean, 12 years old. God, I mean, I think when you think about it, you go, oh, that guy was 15 or whatever. 12.
12. That's a middle.
What if I was like, but Adam, Sonny understands me.
Yeah. He was a very mature 14-year-old, Gina.
Yeah.
He listens.
There's something about the way he plays video games and eats Hot Pockets that drives a woman wild.
There goes a real man.
The way he unvelcros his shoes.
Yeah.
The way he always puts safety first.
I believe he's the kind of man who eventually will be able to ride a Papa Wheelie on a Schwinn. Of course, we're not there
yet. The way
yet.
he etches that sketch.
Yes. It's insane. Yeah. But then she got out of prison and got back with him, and then they had kids. I mean, I don't know.
The kids, the father and the children are virtually the same age. Like they're only a few years younger than he is.
It's a complicated story, but she did a horrible crime. She served the time. And then upon release, I don't know, does it change the details or the nuance of the story that they got married and had kids?
And wasn't the separation or the divorce some sort of a loophole? It's not like they fell out of love. It was some sort of a, like when that aunt sued her nephew for hugging him too hard. You know, it was right. I think that had something to do with it.
Well, you
know,
know,
if it's true love, it's true love, and
you know,
rest in peace.
Well, you know, you can always you can find your answers. I say all the time by doing an extreme version, a big pendulum swing in both possible hypothetical scenarios. So I've always said, if you want to know why sports cars look cooler with big fat back tires and thinner front tires, and you want to prove that point, then you go, all right, well, make a sports car with thinner, skinnier back tires and big, wide front tires. And you go, oh, that would look weird. And you go, okay, there's your point. Yeah. Now you know why it looks better. Now you know it definitively looks better with wider tires in the back. So if you want to know the story, like when Brian was saying, like, well, is it better that she served the time and then they got married and stuff like that? All you have to do is you go extreme. You go, okay, what if it was a story about her just having sex one time with a 12-year-old, and you go, oh, that makes her a witch. I mean, that just makes her a victimizer. I mean, essentially a rapist at that point, right? So then you go, all right, well, what if she did time and then they got married and then they had kids and all that kind of stuff? You go, it's a different version of that. And that's how you can kind of find the truth. And it can still be bad. It's just better than, well, they went camping one time. She was supposed to be looking after the kids, and they had sex near a log. Don Lemon, Black People Clean Up Your Act from 2013. So says, what was that story?
So he revived a segment called No Talking Points, and he gave 5 ways to fix the Black community. And we'll play you a little bit of it. We'll just start it at his number 1 point.
I'll, you know what, get it.
And number 1, and probably the most important, just because you can have a baby, it doesn't mean you should, especially without planning for one or getting married first. More than 72% of children in the African American community are born out of wedlock. That means absent fathers. And the studies show that lack of a male role model is an express train right to prison. And the cycle continues. So please, Black folks, as I said, if this doesn't apply to you, I'm not talking to you. Pay attention to and think about what has been presented in recent history as acceptable behavior. Pay close attention to the hip-hop and rap culture that many of you embrace, a culture that glorifies everything I just mentioned, thug and reprehensible behavior, a culture that is making a lot of people rich, just not you, and it's not going to. That said, though, the political right is not off the hook.
All right. Well, that's a different Don Lemon. First, although I do agree with that, LifeLock cyber criminals aren't letting this COVID-19 stop them from committing tax fraud with the extension of the tax filing date to July 15th. Oh, joy, that's coming up. There's going to be a rise in tax-related identity fraud. Remember, the IRS will not contact you directly by email, text message, or any online platform. So if you're getting a message from the IRS and you're getting a text or an email, sorry, my friend, that is some hacker trying to steal your identity. Identity thieves getting smarter all the time. They want to work. The ultimate work from home crowd, people, is the people trying to hack into your identity and steal it. Protect yourself with LifeLock. Right, Dawson?
No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses. LifeLock can see threats you might miss on your own. Join now and save up to 25% off your first year by using promo code ADAM. Call 1-800-LifeLock or head to LifeLock.com. Use promo code ADAM for 25% off.
Let's do one more Gina Grad because we got the Danny Trejo. Wait.
You got it. Well, we've been talking about a lot of Karens, but nary a Kevin until now. At least that's what I'm calling them. I don't know if you've seen this video, but a Florida man was caught screaming at an elderly woman inside a Costco store after she confronted him about not wearing a mask. Always happens to Costco. I don't know why. The altercation happened on June 27th at historic Gulf Coast Town Center. The person who recorded the video said the man was getting aggressive towards an elderly lady after she asked him why he wasn't wearing a mask inside the store, and then went after the man who defended her. Here's the clip of him.
Here's what we're dealing with. I'm starting to realize, like, I'm just going to buy everything from Barney's of New York. Like, I'm going to buy chamois and food and cheese and beach towels. I'm just going there. It's a little more expensive, but you're not going to have to deal with this element. You know what I'm saying? Because
it's like your Southwest and bus element.
Yeah, Costco, first off, says we got free food. We got free samples. So you're already attracting a group of people who like grazing for free. You know what I mean? Then you have other people that are like, you want me to pay $13 for 87 pairs of tube socks? That's outrageous. I need to go someplace.
Highway robbery.
I'm not paying a dime over $10 for the 87 pair of tube socks. So between that group and is that quiche? Could I have another? You're dealing with a group that you get a little white trash coursing through those veins, and they're eager for the fray. And different group.
Speaking of that,
than Barney's in New York. Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's true. Now, when you see the video, please mind the T-shirt as well.
What's it say?
You're 6 feet away from you. You're harassing me. I'm not harassing you.
Running the world since 1776.
Wow. Wow.
Threaten me again!
Easy, buddy.
He's menacing, that guy.
Back the fuck up or your fucking phone down!
He's coming after him.
Yeah.
Hey, you think he left the house thinking he might start a fight, or this just happened because an old lady asked him why he wasn't wearing a mask?
And to be
in that T-shirt.
I don't think we were running the world for the first 25, 50 years.
Yeah, it's true. Also, notice a lot of people really aggressive and they're wearing flip-flops, and that's not a good fighting shoe. You know what I mean? Like, I've never seen a guy
gonna throw it.
I've seen a lot of guys spar in the boxing ring, and I've seen guys wearing running shoes and basketball shoes. I've never seen a guy spar in flip-flops. I just don't. I don't think it's good. It's not good for that front toe pivot or pushing off the ball, the back foot, whatever the technique you're using to fight. Flip-flops are not going to help. Yes, Brian.
Unless you're such a badass that you just want to get to barefoot as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
That
true.
That could be it. Yeah, people have lost it. There's a decorum thing that's out the window. There's also kind of an interesting thing, which is on one of my nightly talks with Dr. Drew after dropping the deuce in the woods. I was talking about kind of getting back to work, and you can get back to work after a 3-day weekend or a 10-day summer vacation, but I think a lot of people after 4 months, I said to Drew, I feel like a lot of people are like an elderly person that was in good shape, but they slipped and broke their hip in the tub. And it's like, when are they coming back? It's like, I don't know if they're ever coming back. Like, for some people, 4 months of nothingness or whatever they're doing now, the no routine, I think it wreaked havoc, sort of played havoc with their brain, but also there's going to be a certain percentage of our society that just doesn't come back. Like the old person that slipped in the bathtub. Like, no, they're down. They're not.
You mean, does it like reintegrate into society?
Yeah, like it's just having a hard time picking up the job and the schedule and getting back to it. You know what I mean? I think we can all feel it a little bit. Like when you're at home for 2 months and you're kind of like, I don't know if I want to get out of my sweatpants. Element of that.
Pretty comfy this way.
Christie's work did an internal survey, like who's ready and willing to go back to the office. You know, not just work because they're all still working, but go back into the office for a day to day. I think out of a few hundred people, 2 said they were ready to go back into the office. Now, of course, there's mitigating circumstances. It's a high rise and it's blah, blah, blah. A lot of people squished together and everything.
People are just used to it now.
Yeah, now that people are realizing. I think, Adam, you alluded to it. It was like, yeah, well, we can do that. We can be very effective from our remote offices.
And would you like me to work an extra 2 hours or commute an extra 2 hours? Yeah. You know, like there's upsides for both. But if we can please, I just feel like it needs to be said, because I don't know if you guys spend as much time on social media as I do. Brian probably does. But when you hear that it's only the left that's going insane, or it's only the right that's going insane, we have "This is America, get that fucking camera out of my face, fuck you, this is my constitution," and we have a woman screaming at a man who dared to put her friend's black baby on his lap. Yeah. So it's equal opportunity insanity.
It manifests itself in different ways, but it's equal.
Well put. All right. Last but not least, Simply Safe. No one should feel unsafe at home like that poor teacher did. So Simply Safe's been a sponsor for a long time, and they're on a mission, man, from day one to protect your home. Go to simplysafe.com/Adam. Our outro with the news.
Gina
That was the news with Gina Grad.
All right, Danny Trejo is waiting in the wings. He's such an interesting cat. I'm going to do an interesting one-on-one with him, and we'll take a Brian and Gina do. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back with Danny Trejo right after this. Danny Trejo is with us. Danny has a new documentary out, Inmate Number One, The Rise of Danny Trejo. It's available now on digital and on demand. It's such an interesting story. Danny's such a fascinating guy. And the website, DannyTrejo.com. Yes.
iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon, something like that.
Yeah, you can find it everywhere you do download and stream docs. It's a great documentary. Danny's story is, it's inspirational. And I know a lot about your story, but I'm a San Fernando Valley guy. I grew up in San Fernando Valley. I played football for the Sun Valley Falcons. We played our home field.
Hey, my little cousin Gilbert played for them.
The home field was Poly High over there.
Poly High. I used to be his coach. We played for the Falcons. He was on the Falcons, and but he went to prison when he was 17, and he got out when he was 55. So, but yeah, he played for the Falcons.
So his
the wrong road.
His window to play in the NFL had closed by the time he got out of the joint. So, Danny, how do you do it? First off, let's just talk about your story. You grew up in the San Fernando Valley. The San Fernando Valley is a very Hispanic portion of Los Angeles, especially the deep part, like Sun Valley is a little deeper into the valley, Pacoima, a little deeper. How do you grow up?
Well, I had a role model of my uncle who was a hold on, I got where? Darn it. I've got
you getting a text or something?
I'm trying to shut the TV off. I had Jennifer Lopez. When she was a stripper, and it's hard to
focus.
Yeah. But anyway, it's like it was. I had my uncle who was my role model was a drug addict and an armed robber. So I was he raised me. So it was inevitable. I wish if he would have been an athlete, I might have played football, you know what I mean? Or if I boxed a lot, but boxing's a tough game.
Where was your dad growing up?
My dad grew up on 38th Street over in East Los Angeles.
And how was your relationship with your dad?
I had no relationship with him. He was a hard-working man that felt that that's all he had to do. All I got to do is support my family. It wasn't. I think one of the biggest problems that my parents had was my mom was married to her house, my dad was married to his job, and they had no time for me. And I think one of the most important things in raising kids is time. I don't care what you do, you got to make time for them. And that's the one thing I did with my kids. I always had time. I just, and I always said, I love you. I love you. Don't say it in front of my friends, Dad. Shut up. I love you.
So you got caught up in the streets. Where physically were you in Pacoima? Where was your home?
I was on Bram Canyon, right behind Roger Jessuper's dairy, and when it was a dairy.
And it was a tough neighborhood back then, growing up, right?
Yeah. I mean, come on. I think at one time we were murder capital of Los Angeles. There was so many people, getting shot and stuff. It was kind of crazy. Van Nuys Boulevard, San Fernando Road, all that area there was really, really kind of hardcore.
Yeah, it's a tough area to grow up in, and it's funny because it's missing. I've talked about this a lot. Like, you talk about bad parts of Chicago or bad parts of New York. There was still some architecture and some culture and some stuff going on. The San Fernando Valley was a lot of just buildings with flat roofs, stucco, built in the 40s or 50s. I mean, my school looked like a prison. It looked like an institution. All the schools were built in the 30s and 40s.
Valley Junior High for about a week, I think.
Which schools did you go to?
Pacoima Junior High School and Sun Valley Junior High School. And then the high schools, I went to Polytechnic, North Hollywood, Van Nuys, San Fernando, Monroe, and then I came back to Poly, and then I went to prison.
Those were all the teams we would play when I was at North Hollywood High. So I went to North Hollywood High. Adam,
I was the first Mexican to go to North Hollywood High. Now it's called North Hollywood.
So what was it like? Did you experience any discrimination as the only Mexican at North Hollywood High back in the day?
Well, I didn't know it was discrimination. I just thought they were checking me because I was from a different school, and I fought every day. There was a gang called the Caballeros, and it's a Mexican name, and I was at war with them for a long time.
So you were getting kicked out of each school for fighting?
Yeah. Yes, that was it. It's the only thing I ever got kicked out.
It's weird, you take a kid, he fights at Polytechnic High School, Poly Parrots, go Poly. Then he ends up at North Hollywood High, fights again, go Huskies, gets tossed out of Huskies there. Then he goes to Grant, go Lancers.
I didn't go to Grant.
Oh.
Grant wasn't built.
Oh, Grant wasn't built yet.
No, I went to Van Nuys.
Van Nuys, go Wolves. Go Wolves in Van Nuys. Wolves. It gets caught, fights in Van Nuys, goes to Monroe, go Vikings. Go Vikings, and fights it. But what I'm saying is moving Danny Trejo around is like moving a pedophile priest around. Like, hey, he was trying to bang a kid at that church. We'll move him to another church. Well, what do you think he's going to do there?
All I did was fight. It was so funny. It was like, I guess it was discrimination. I didn't know it. I just, thought they're from different schools, so we fight. And I think the only place I really got comfortable in juvenile hall, there were so many Mexicans in juvenile hall. I thought Mexicans were supposed to go. And so we were just there, and it was kind of a cool place.
And I've I work construction in the San Fernando Valley, so I only work with Mexicans. And they're interesting in their wiring. They're super hardworking, but they're not that progressive. They're not like, well, what are we going to do a year from now? They're like, we're going to do more stucco. And they bring their kids, on with them, and they end up doing stucco with them. And they're just like, I'm going to do stucco for 50 years.
My dad's dream was for me to graduate from high school and go into construction with him, labor. It would have been great if he had a construction company and I could be the foreman. You know what I mean? But he was just a hard, and I just figured there's got to be a way to work smart, where you're not like breaking your back. I remember him having sweat rings at 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 4 o'clock sweat rings,
Right. And a shirt, yeah. No, I know it's an interesting subject. I was in the same position. Like I worked as construction labor in the San Fernando Valley, and I started thinking, I got to figure out a way to get paid without moving cinder blocks or carrying drywall. I got to get paid for an idea, not by the hour. But when did you start having the? Yeah,
that's amazing because I knew that this said for me, I can work. If you're building a fence or whatever and you call me, yeah, we can work. I helped put out fires when I was 16 years old in forestry camp. But I said, there's got to be a better way. I just thought armed robbery was easier and doing drugs was easier, but like I said, my role model was my Uncle Gilbert. He was always dressed sharp. He never sweated. He always smelled good. He had $200 shoes, and that was the left one. Tommy Bahama, tucked in shirts and stuff. And so that's what I want to do. And you can do it if you arm rob. The only problem is your career's short-lived.
Well, what were you initially convicted for when you went to San Quentin for 5 years?
Last time, actually, I sold 4 ounces of sugar to a federal agent.
Saying it was cocaine or speed?
Yeah, it was heroin. And it's funny because I remember him asking me, is it good? I said, it's pure. And it was, but pure sugar. And so they were very angry, and I canceled the money and they beat me all the way to the federal building from North Hollywood and then all the way back, so dumped me in the North Hollywood substation and gave me a silver platter law to the state, and so I was convicted of sale and loot of narcotics. And
when did you start? Was it in prison you started having thoughts like, I got to figure out a different life for myself?
You know what, Adam, in 1968, Cinco de Mayo, there was a prison riot and some people really got hurt. And me, Ray Pacheco, and Henry Quijada got sent to the hole. And there was 3 gas chamber offenses. Some lieutenant got hit with a rock. 3 person got socked, and the coast was ruptured. And it was alleged that we did it. And by the grace of God, it was a DJ reject. But while I was in the hole, I promised God if he let me die with dignity, I would say his name every day, and I would do whatever I could for my fellow inmate till they kill me. And he said, okay, DJ reject the crime. We got sent out, and I started living up to my deal, my end of the deal. And I've been doing it every day. Say his name, do whatever we can for my fellow man. My hat says, I forgot. Russ on Wheels is this paraplegic guy that sells everything I do. It's like I do it to help somebody else. We pass out Pampers and clothes and food, because I got restaurants now. So, I go order 8 meals and pass them out.
I've seen you on TMZ handing out Trejo's tacos and other delectable pieces of cuisine from your restaurant. And I have this theory, and I'll ask you what you think of this theory. The person I know, I always picture, there's 2 people I think of in my head. The person I know who does the most for other people and is the most selfless, and the one who just sort of is the most generous with their time and their money and everything else, that's Jimmy Kimmel. That's always been Jimmy Kimmel. Even when he wasn't famous, that's who Jimmy Kimmel was and is. And then I have guys I went to high school with who won't do jack shit for anybody any of the time unless you pay them to do it. Jimmy Kimmel has a better life, a better family, and is certainly 1,000 times richer than any of my friends from the Valley who will never do anything for anybody unless you pay them. So how is it that the guy who's given away so much has so much more than the person that doesn't give away anything?
Well, I think that's that thing they call Carmen. You know, it's like what
Hold on. Carmen is your aunt. Karma is the
Karma.
Karma's what you're talking about.
Girlfriend.
Yeah.
It's like the more you give, the more you get. And I honestly believe that that's the way the good Lord wants us to live. We're supposed to help each other. I wish I was as rich as Jimmy Kimmel, but I got enough to buy 150 boxes of Pampers, because everybody, every time we give women food, do you have any Pampers? If they got kids, do we have any Pampers? So we started handing out Pampers, and it's funny. Mario Castillo, my assistant, said, "Wow, we went from shot callers in San Quentin to passing out Pampers." And then he said, "If we go to prison, they'll give us a nickname like, 'Hey, Huggies, come here.'"
How do you become a shot caller in prison?
Reputation of not taking any steps backwards, reputation of putting in work, reputation of a couple of bodies, and that's that's it. That's the way. That's the way it's done. It's, if you're on a pile of shit, who wants to be in the middle?
Right. So you had to establish yourself. If you went to a prison, you had to establish yourself as someone that nobody could fuck with. You didn't step back. You had to get that.
There's only two kinds of people in prison. There's predators and prey, and you have to decide every morning what you're going to be. Only problem is you can decide you're predator, and somebody else can decide, no, you're prey, and then that's when a life-threatening situation shows up.
How different is prison now than when you were in it? Or is it?
Well, first of all, it's like so many more people. California has more people in prison than anywhere in the world. We are a prison state. We have to have some kind of prison reform. And honest to God, 10% of the people in prison belong in prison. The other 90 can be mental illness, autism, bipolar, can be addiction, can be housed somewhere else or work with somewhere else. And imagine being in a place where 10% are psychopaths, the other 90% are angry because they don't want to be there.
Yeah. Sounds like my workplace, actually.
That's funny.
It's weird. It's so funny. When I was a kid, I would watch movies, and the movies would be about prison. Like, I remember watching the movie Papillon a million years ago with Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman. Great. They both were great in that. But by the way, I felt so bad for the prisoners. And it's kind of weird because I didn't feel as bad for the victims of the crime as I did for the prisoners. And sometimes I'll have a bad dream, and my bad dream is that I've done something horrible or by mistake or whatever, and I'm going to prison. I've always had a kind of weird relationship with prison, and I still do. Like, I picture being locked up into that very small cage, and even being claustrophobic. Like, you're in that cage, whether there's a fire in that place. But
I remember being in the LA County Jail, and there was an earthquake, and there was this unbelievable, the bars all rattling, the old county jail, and then after it slowed down, we started saying, "Officer." We were all locked up. There was the police all ran out.
They all ran out.
We were out of so I don't blame them.
So,
and after that, they condemned the LA County Jail.
So for you, it's sort of eat or be eaten, I guess, in prison. And that's a horrible mentality to have once you're out of prison. How long, once you were out of prison, were you able to turn that off, or did it linger for a while?
I think I got clean in 1968. That was when I got clean, when I asked God to let me die with dignity, and I started saying his name every day, and I started doing whatever I could for my fellow inmate to help them and whatever. And I came out, and I remember standing in front of my mom's house on Brantford, and I was, how do I be a nice guy? Everybody in this neighborhood hates me. I robbed everybody. I burglarized everybody's house and stole stuff out of everybody's garage. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching this one lady pull her trash cans out. In 1969, they didn't have the rolling kind of trash cans. They used to put everything in a big tub. And I seen her, and I remember walking up to her to help her with her trash. I'll never forget what she said. She said, "No me robas, Danny." I said, "Shut up, vieja." And I grabbed her trash can, I pulled it out, and then I went to her backyard to get the other trash can, and she never took her eyes off me because she knew I was going to run for the garage and steal her lawnmower, steal something. And I got the other trash can, I pulled it out, and she stood there staring at me. That's what I did. I started taking out the trash in my mom's neighborhood. And the first gift I ever got was a fake suede blazer, double-breasted. And I remember asking my mom, "Where'd that come from?" She says, "That vehicle with the real bad arthritis brought it." And that was our first present I can remember getting. And that was it. And my sponsor, Sam, used to say, "You have to do good things for other people." He always had that, John, you have to do good things for other people and not expect any kind of reward. And that's what I've been doing.
How old were you
life just
at that time?
26 when I came out of prison.
26?
26, yeah.
Chris, there is a picture of me somewhere wearing a Sun Valley Falcons uniform talking to a coach on a sideline, and it's a blue helmet. It says Falcons on the side. And I was talking to old Coach Burr and Coach Podley, and that was at Polytechnic High School in the San Fernando Valley. So one of your first movie roles was Runaway Train. Is that correct?
Eric Roberts, yeah.
I love Runaway Train. It's a sleeper movie. Most people haven't seen it. Maybe they haven't even heard of it, but Jon Voight and Eric Roberts, they're both magnificent in it, and it's a beautiful, beautiful movie, and the cinematography is beautiful. You played a fighter, prison boxer in that?
Yes, and that's how I got the job. I ran into Eddie Bunker, who was a writer who knew me from San Quentin. And when I walked on, he goes, "Danny, I saw you win the lightweight and the welterweight title up in Quentin." I said, "Yeah, Eddie Bunker." We started talking, and he said, "Hey, we need somebody to train one of the actors how to box." And I said, "What's it pay?" And he says, $320 a day. And I said, "How bad do you want this guy beat up?" I thought he wanted me to beat somebody up. And I'd have done it for another $50, And he goes, "No, you got to be careful. This actor's real high strung. He might sock you." I said, "Eddie, for $320, give him a stick. Are you crazy? I've been beat up for free." And I started training Eric Roberts how to box for the movie Runaway Train. And the director saw me, and he saw that I could deal with Eric, and Roberts, and they hired me to be the boxer. And I'll never forget it. Eric chose me. I want him to fight. So Andre says, "You be in movie, you fight in my movie, and you be my friend." And the Russian aristocrat. But if you got a prison background, you don't like hearing people say, "You be my friend," and you want to say, "Well, what does that entail?" And then he leans over and he kisses me on each cheek and walks away. I said, Eddie, listen, I'll train the kid for 320, but if I got to kiss that old man, I want more money. And he goes, no, he's European. I didn't know they kiss, you know. And so me and Andre became great friends. He's the one that got me that SAG card. And I didn't know what a SAG card was. I was just doing this whole thing for $50. And really, I would have done that part for $50, but I found out they paid you a lot more, you know. So that's my first.
Was that the early '80s, early '80s?
Yeah,
what?
That was 1985. That was SAG minimum.
We'll pull that picture up for you. I think Max Pat has found that picture. There's me.
All right.
That's Polly High. That's me.
Love the pants.
13 years old, Falcons on the side of the helmet, Sun Valley Falcons, talking to Coach Burr and Coach Podley, because I was the captain of the defensive team.
Yeah, that was Gilbert. He was Sun Valley Falcons. My God.
How's Gilbert doing today? He was in prison for 38 years.
He did 53, 54, 58 years. I'm sorry.
38.
38 years, and he's 50. Now he's like 56, 57. I think he's like 57.
He was in prison since 17.
Yeah, he was 17 years old when he went to prison.
And he got out when?
55, when he turned 55. Got out 3 years ago. So he's going to be 58.
And how's he doing?
Right now, he's actually an electrician, and he's working on the new Rams stadium. Go Rams! And he's he's doing great. I mean, he is just doing so good, man.
Did he learn that trade in prison?
Yes, he learned it. He learned mathematics by himself. He learned how to program a computer without a computer. He just read. That's why I tell read everything. I remember when I took my son, he was 9, and my other son was 13, and I took him to 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. Took him to a comic book store, and my son bought these 2 comics, and the guy, I'll never get this, he said, you let him read this? I said, hey, I am so glad he's reading. Do you understand? When I was his age, I was erasing the clothes off Jughead and Veronica and making them naked. So I'm in juvenile hall. So I'm real glad he read. I mean, he read everything. Right now, he just finished directing me in a film called From a Son. So read everything. Read the books your parents won't let you read. Read anything.
Here's a question for Danny Trejo. I'll tease it because I got to do a spot, but you have a great sense of humor, and that sense of humor is something that's usually kind of always with you. I mean, it's probably something that was always present. Now, you may have repressed it or tamped it down when you were fighting or threatening somebody or stealing something or robbing a bank, but you must have always had a sense of humor. There must have been a base there of a sort of a comedian trapped inside a kind of gangbanger's body. Is that... I'll tease that. I'll let you think about it for a second. Let me hit Meguiar's here real quick. Car waxes have come a long way. Last year, Meguiar's introduced hybrid ceramic spray wax. It's advanced SiO2 hybrid technology, delivers ceramic wax protection and durability, no rubbing, curing, or buffing, provides extreme water bead action, the beading action of the water. That's what you're looking for when you're waxing up your ride. This year, Meguiar's launched their liquid version, seals the paint for long-lasting protection against the elements. Easy to use, apply like traditional liquid wax. Also, hybrid ceramic spray detailer removes contaminants like dust, fingerprints, bird droppings, boosts gloss and enhances the protection as well. If you like automobiles and you want to wax it up and you want it to look beautiful, by the way, the spray detailer, the quick detailer, is awesome. It is Meguiar ceramic, made easy. with McGuire's. Yeah, sense of humor. You have it or you don't. You have it, but you certainly didn't lead that kind of life at a young age. But thoughts?
McGuire's, first of all, great wax. I use it on my cars. I got old cars, and their paint is really, really.
Well, thanks. We'll talk about them in a second. Sense of humor. Chris, fix the screen, please. Sorry. Go ahead.
You need, in prison, you have to have a sense of humor to survive. It might be a very sick sense of humor. I can remember seeing this guy stabbed in the back, and he was walking around the yard screaming, trying to get this knife. And this 3,000 people were laughing. It was comical, it was like a cartoon, but you have to keep that or you'll go insane. I used to act out the Wizard of Oz in my cell in isolation. Give me those shoes, Dorothy. And the whole thing, I'll drop a house on you, Scarecrow. And I used to do this whole thing. And then I used to do the Hunchback of Notre Dame, the one with Charles, she gave me water, the one with Charles Lawton, and guards would think you're going crazy, but you had to do that so they wouldn't make you go crazy.
Would you do it? Would you do it for other prisoners, so they could hear you?
For me, you have to keep this sense of humor here. You can't walk around prison smiling because people think you like being there. So you've got to have this killer face. And I remember Sam Hardy, I told you, hillbilly with the jaw. He says, I remember I said, Sam, what'd you go to prison for? He said, well, got in a little argument. And I killed two gentlemen. I murdered one and killed the other. And because the bottom line to an argument is a murder. So I would keep this sense of humor no matter what. It would be in here. I would laugh, and I would make something funny, whatever it was. I'd make something funny, and you had to. And we would have some belly laughs and stuff. But in an instant, that can change. In an instant, you have to have that switch to that. If you're laughing and somebody's staring at you, it goes from what the hell are you looking at? It's a split second. So you have to have that. And now I got dogs behind me.
Yeah, I got a dog up on the sofa. Did you, when you were in the hole or in solitary, what was the schedule like when you were just confined that way? How did that work?
The schedule, the only way you knew what time it was when they fed you. They give you a jute ball, and that's just compressed food. And that was, you just didn't even care. It didn't matter. You had no schedule. You just did as many push-ups as you could. You tried to do a sit-up or whatever and just fantasize. And that's a good thing about. You have three mindsets as a convict. You have intimidate, manipulate, or fantasize. That's it. That's all.
The last one probably ended with an 8, too. I'm guessing. But so how long did you spend in that cell? I mean, it would be 24 hours a day, but for how long?
I went from Cinco de Mayo, 1968 to August 27th, I think, because I remember August 26th, the Beatles song came out. Hey, Jude,
right.
Don't be afraid. And sometimes the guard will have the radio on, and it was on. We heard it, and it got completely quiet in the hole. And when it gets quiet in the hole, something's about to jump off. And we're listening, and everybody listened very calmly until he went, Judy, 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 yeah!
Right.
Everything blew up. Sinks got broken. Fires got lit. It was like I had a bad habit of lighting my cell on fire, forgetting that I was locked in it. You know what I mean? And so not until they shot the hose in there to shut it off.
How would you light a fire? You know, where did you get matches or a lighter in prison, and what couldn't you get in prison?
And where did you get heroin?
Yeah, you were doing heroin in prison?
That was where I kicked my last habit, really, was in Soledad State Prison. I stayed in the hole. I kicked my last habit right there. That was when I kind of said, hey, God, let me die with dignity, and I'll say your name every day. You know, because out of all my life, teachers will always write potential. Enormous amount of potential. Potential if he could stay still. Potential if he could be all this potential. Parole officers, Danny has a lot of, and when you're expecting to go to the gas chamber, you wonder where the hell was all that potential go? You know, because they're going to kill me, and you almost get mad at yourself for what did I do? You know, and you're 24 years old and your life's over.
Did you have a thought? I did myself. By the time I had a thought that I basically wasted the first 30 years of my life. I didn't do anything I wanted to do. I worked construction. All I was a donkey, basically, for 30 years. And so once I got into show business, I met some people. I've had this making up for lost time kind of mentality. And did you have that mentality once you started to go in the right direction?
You know, I came out of prison August 23rd, 1969, and I immediately started trying to help people and do that. And I started a gardening business. I worked, and when I got into drug counseling, I found something that I absolutely loved doing. And I just ran all over. Doing it. And then Jimmy Pena is funny because he hired me. I was in the San Fernando Valley. The Narcotics Prevention Project was in East LA, in Boyle Heights. And he hired me. I thought he hired me to be a counselor, but really there was about 5 guys dealing dope out of Narcotics Prevention Project. So he hired me as muscle. And he said, Danny, we got to clean up the street. So anyway, we got rid of all the guys dealing drugs. And I said, well, I hope you're not going to fire me now. So they made me transportation because I was the only one that had insurance in my car. And I would transport drug addicts back and forth to the hospital. And I work for Western Pacific MedCorp still. You know, I still work for them, and we detox drug addicts. And I love doing that. So I haven't changed. I'm still doing the same stuff I did when I got out of prison, and that works. But I am a helper.
You have a motor. I mean, the people said, you know, your counselors and your parole officers and teachers, they all said you had potential because you have a motor. You have, I don't know if you have, you know, hyper activity or whatever. You've been diagnosed with anything, but it seems like you have this motor.
When I was in Pacoima Junior High School, they started a class for me, Malcolm Armendariz, Eddie Valenzuela, Paul Belmont. They started a class for us they called Social Adjustment. And they had us all in one class. We were like the bad kids. You know, we were the bad kids of that school. And we stayed in this one class. Everybody else got to move, but we stayed in this one. And I finally, when I started working with autistic children, now I realized everybody in that classroom was on the spectrum somewhere. But nobody knew what autism was in the 50s, or you know, nobody knew what. They were just bad. We were just bad kids. But the same things I see autistic children doing now, we were doing in that classroom.
Have you ever been diagnosed?
What is it? Hyperkinetic.
Yeah, they used to call HD. You know, whatever HD, whatever they call it now. What is it, Chris?
ADHD.
ADHD. They used to call ADHD hyperkinetic or hyperactivity. Like it's like they used to call climate change ecology. They used to call, green stuff, we called it ecology. Like they just had different names for the same shit back then. Now, you used to be Chicano, now you're Latinx or something like that.
Yeah. Mexican American. I don't care. It doesn't matter, man. I know who I am, and I love being who I am. And it's funny because it's like one of the advice I give kids is you want to try to be yourself because everybody else is taken. You know what I mean? Just try to be yourself. But some of them will say, "Well, who am I?" And it's like, because a lot of our kids, especially lower income, feel like they've been thrown away. Mom's got a job, dad's got a job, they're too busy, so they're kind of left to their own devices. And I try to just tell, hey, it doesn't matter where you end, it doesn't matter where you start, it's where you end. We've had a lot of success. I've had a lot of young people come up and say, thank you for, I heard you in juvenile hall. I heard you when you were in juvenile hall. And I'm doing pretty good. That's awesome. That's the greatest feeling in the world.
Did you ever reconcile with your dad, if that's the right word?
Yes. Before my dad passed away, God, he passed away 36 years ago. Me and him became really close, really close. I think the last 2 years of his life, we became really just like unbelievably close. It was awesome. It was the best feeling. And because we hadn't really gotten close at all. And I thought my dad hated me, but the reality was his defense was anger. He was just always mad at me. And I understand why. He made his mom a promise when he got in trouble that if she helped him get a lawyer and stuff, he would never get in trouble again. And he kept his promise. I promised that 8 times,
How did things end up with your mom?
Same way, like 2 years, I think before she passed away, we became really close. My dad passed away a long time before my mom, and we were like estranged for like 4 years after he died. And then I remember Johnny Harris, my sponsor, said, why are you dicking around? Why don't you just call her, so I just called her, hey, what's up? And I came real close. And she was real lonely because after my dad died, and so I was always leaving town. So I would get my friends, hey, I'd go introduce them. They'd come over and stay with her and have lunch with her and take her to the store. And it's funny, every time my mom would laugh because anytime one of my friends pulled up in front of her house, her neighbors, Alice, there's some bad looking guys in front of your house. Oh, Danny's friends. They're all right. They're taking me to the store. They take her to the doctor, wherever she had to go.
Was she staying in the San Fernando Valley?
Yeah, it's the same house on Bramford.
Yeah.
I gave that house to my daughter. And it's funny, my documentary, it's called
Inmate Number One.
Yeah, it just came out and it shows that house. And my daughter texts me, she's in Ohio and she rented that house out. She says, Dad, I got to paint my house now because it's famous, so.
Did your, let's see, was it Gilbert? Was that your cousin who's working on the Ram Stadium now?
Yeah. That's my Gilbert, my role model's son. I finally got him out of prison. He's working on the Ram Stadium right now.
What did he do to get himself in prison for 36 years?
Second-degree murder. And then he committed a crime, stabbed a guard while he was in prison. The guard attacked him, so he stabbed him. So anyway, and that gave him a life sentence. So basically he could never come. So we passed the law. We went, Governor Jerry Brown, Senator Bill, and some other guys that really, really helped. Tracy Lum, his attorney. And right now his name, Gilbert Trejo, is in the law book. They set a precedent that a juvenile that committed a crime before he was 21 in prison can't come up for parole. So they didn't want to let him out. They were angry. The Department of Corrections didn't even let us on the campus. They actually dropped him off on the highway, and that's where we picked him up.
How many guys in prison, including yourself, had time added on to their sentence for some of the things they may have done in prison?
God, a lot of them. A lot of them. It's like you do something, you get caught with something, and it's just more time. And it can be more time without them adding more time. You just get shot down at the parole board. Parole board comes up, nope, denied.
Right. So Gilbert is also the name of your son, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was named after my uncle.
So
he just directed in a film.
I want to talk about that in a second, but your uncle goes in there for how long and then ends up getting how much tacked on?
Oh, Gilbert did like 25 years in prison, on and off. And then he overdosed and died out here. He was collecting money for a drug dealer.
Wait a minute. Now I'm confused. One guy's working on the Rams stadium, right?
That's his son.
Oh, that's his son.
That's his son, yeah.
Oh, okay. How about you? Do you have brothers and sisters?
No. Well, yeah, I do. I actually met my mom and my sister when I was in the county jail. They read about me in the paper, and they came up to visit me because I was raised by my stepmom and my dad.
Oh.
Yeah, it was funny. They came up to visit me in the county jail. It was amazing seeing my mom for the first time, and I was in the county, and she kind of said, "We read about you in the paper. That's how we found you."
You met your biological mom for the first time when you were in prison.
County jail, yeah.
Oh, county
jail.
And your sister as well.
Diane, yeah.
So what happened to your biological mom?
She passed away. Just a long time ago, she passed away. My dad took me from my biological mom when I was 3. And I think he threatened to kill her if she tried to pick me up, something, get me or something.
That may have had a psychological effect on a young Danny Trejo, right?
I don't know. Yeah, probably.
Well, I mean, taking a 3-year-old away from their biological mom sounds pretty traumatic to me.
Yeah. And then it's funny. He marries my mom, my stepmom, to take care of me, and she doesn't like kids. Dad, screwed up here, Dad.
I have to talk about Con Air because it's one of my favorite fun movies. I will never, if I turn on the TV and Con Air's on, I will never turn it off. I will never change that channel.
Adam, let me tell you something about Con Air. Con Air was like the epitome of tough guys. They picked all the wannabe tough guys and put them on one movie, right?
Right.
And if you spit, somebody would spit farther, and then you got a spitting contest, right? Somebody did a push-up, you had a push, and there was a guy, Benny Urquidez, who was
Benny the Jet.
Benny the Jet, right? Exactly, 5-time world kickboxing champion, and he was actually, oh God, what's his name?
So Benny Urquidez had a gym called the Jet Center out in Van Nuys, and I used to go there. So he was a famous kickboxer.
Okay, but wait, now who was the other star of that movie? There was Nicolas Cage. There was John. Oh
God, John Malkovich and John Cusack.
John Cusack. The people don't realize this. John Cusack is double bad. People don't know this. He can kick the bumper off a Cadillac. It's funny. Benny Urquidez is his sensei, and I have watched Johnny hit that bad. I watched him fight. Amazing, right?
Right.
And Urquidez, they had a dojo set up, and John Cusack would work out and stuff. And every lunch, every break, Benny Urquidez would come pick me up and say, "Come on, let's go." And we'd walk to his dojo, and we just sit and talk and eat our lunch there. And I go, "Benny, what's your trip? You're always pulling me away." He said, "Danny, look, I know you grew up with my brother Mondo. These guys are all having whose is bigger contest. And I know you're not a good sport and you don't play well with others. You're exactly like my older brother. So we'll just stay over here because I don't like that Hollywood who's tougher contest. I can't stand that shit." And so we would sit there and watch these guys spit and do push-ups. And one time we're all sitting around and I'm over by myself with Benny just kind of bullshitting. And Nicolas Cage says, "Hey, I don't care what you guys say. Only guy I'd be scared of meeting in an alley is Trejo." And I go, "Well, why me?" You know what I mean? And because it's like, I just don't play that stuff. I don't get into contests. I don't like competition.
Well, I have thoughts. One is Benny Urquidez had his brother-in-law was named Blinky. And
absolutely. Blinky a lot.
I know if there's a guy in the San Fernando Valley who's Mexican, his name is Blinky. You must know that dude. I think he died a few years back. He's alive. Lily, his wife, Lily.
His wife died, yeah.
Died.
Yeah, and one of his sons died. And we're trying to get his son out of prison right now. But he was, he is double bad. He works with an agency called, what is it? Neighborhood and schools and neighborhoods. Yeah. And does a great job. Usually if there's a gang murder, his agency immediately helps the police immediately.
So
talks to the family.
So Benny Urquidez is this world champion kickboxer, and there's stories of him going to like Thailand and doing death matches and crazy shit, right?
Yeah, he is amazing. If you want to ever shut one of them karate guys in the movies up, any one of them, talk about Chuck Norris or Benny Urquidez. They just immediately shut up. Because they know Chuck Norris is the real thing. Everybody else is Hollywood, all of them.
So he had a gym. It's called the Jet Center, and Blinky taught there, and Lily, Blinky's wife, taught there as well. And she was a super tough chick, and I mean hard on the students. And Blinky was the brother-in-law, and Cusack. If you look at the movie Say the Right Thing, or Say Anything. He was saying that kickboxing was the sport of the future in that movie. So he obviously was doing it in his real life, and it was bleeding into the movies. We're looking at a picture of Cusack and Benny and. Who is that?
Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan next to him. Yeah. So
he consulted on all Jackie Chan's movies.
Oh, he did.
He worked with Jackie Chan.
There you go. So, on the movie set, I can tell you, I was a stand-in on a movie with Emilio Estevez and Cuba Gooding Jr. called Judgment Night. It's a bad 90s movie about Jeremy Piven and a Winnebago, and they got on the wrong side of Chicago, and I can tell you that on the set, the bad guys acted like bad guys, like they were acting out their part. They didn't sit with the good guys at lunch. I can see where it would be a little bit volatile if you got a whole bunch of the baddest dudes around, put them in one movie, put them in costume, hair and makeup and everything, and told them they're playing a badass. I could see where there could be some scrapping off camera going on. So Benny was, yeah.
Me and Emilio, He was on the. No. God, I just can't give his name. Anyway, he was on Sons of Anarchy. Emilio. Trejo. Rivera. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Rivera.
We kind of like step aside and we're looking at tough guys, and because people don't understand, there's no such thing as tough. Do you understand? 6 inches of steel will take care of anybody. And so it's like we've been seeing the other side of who's tough. You understand? In prison, you never have a fist fight because you can get caught having a fist fight. Dude, if I sock you, you sock me back, we roll on the ground, they shoot us. If I come up behind you and stab you 3 times and walk away, I won.
Right. So no fist fights in prison, just shanking.
God, come on. It's like, because you can get caught and the price is the same. Do you understand, Adam? For drawing blood on an inmate, it's the same as stabbing them. You drew blood.
What would they make the shanks out of? Toothbrushes, metal shop?
Anything. Well, if one of your guys worked in the metal shop or wood shop or whatever, then you had shanks. You know what I mean? So and shanks out of a spring from your bed, anything that you can sharp to a point.
Jesus. What percentage of guys had a shank?
Anybody that wants to stay alive, because you always have some place to go to get a shank,
What would you do with, I mean, obviously there's so many people in prison that don't need to be in prison, but what else kind of reform? Like you were talking about Gilbert, who learned to be an electrician inside the prison. He's now working on the Rams stadium out here. So he spent part of his time learning a trade. That's a good thing, I guess.
I think he spent 16 years in the hole, and I think he said he read every book there was printed, and he started reading electrical books, mathematics. He got all the way up to total geometry, some kind of, and he learned math. And electric is a lot of math. So he passes all the tests and everything. And he's in the electrician union right now. And he's just I'm so proud of him. He is a perfect example that of what you can do, but prison reform, really, it has to start in our court system, because our court system is adversarial. Now, district attorneys don't get advanced if they let people go. Okay, if a police officer brings somebody in, the district attorney doesn't say, "Oh no, this guy's innocent." Right. Understand? They're going to go to court. So now, since they passed the 3-strike law, you took all the power away from the judge. The district attorney has the power. The district attorney says, "Look, this crime carries 5 years. Now, I will give you 90 days if you plead guilty." We're not talking about innocence or guilt. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
So now you got to get back to work. Your family's starving. What are you going to do? You can say, "Okay, can you suspend that sentence?"
Right.
And the district judge, certainly, so you can get back to work. "Your Honor, I'm guilty." Suspended sentence. Okay. Bam. That's 1 strike against you. So basically, any crime you go before the judge, you're going to plead guilty. Or you need an attorney, $10,000. I'll give you a perfect example. My assistant, Mario Castillo, he got busted for an armed robbery, kidnap. Okay? Armed robbery, kidnap. Very serious crimes. got busted right here in San Fernando, Sylmar. And it wasn't that. It was a fender bender, and the guy offered him $500, and he goes, that won't even cover my I forget what you call it in your insurance, deductible.
Right.
And so Mario called the police. This guy doesn't want to give me his ID, blah, 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 blah. The police came. They immediately saw Mario. Mario, if you look at Cholo Gangster in the dictionary, it's got his picture, okay? He looks like Cholo Gangster.
Same with my assistant, Matt Fondelier. Sorry, go ahead.
Don't get on the ground. Yeah. Huh? Wait, I called him. Attempted armed robbery and kidnap.
Wow.
And cost me $35,000 to fight this case. Last court appearance, we go. District attorney comes to me and says, I think the judge is going to dismiss this. Now, do you have another $35,000 because we're going to refile it?
Wow.
I said, what are you talking? He said, he can plead guilty to obstruction of justice. Now, we went from armed robbery, kidnap, to obstruction of justice. I looked at Mario. He said, why didn't you tell us at first?
Right.
It's beside the point. So he pleads guilty. District attorney gets a good strike. Oh, okay. I did my job.
He gets a win.
Absolutely.
He gets a W, not a L.
That's where it starts. That's where it starts.
Yeah.
Do you understand? That's where it starts.
Oh, listen, I do a podcast with Mark Garagos, the attorney, and I've talked to him about this stuff a million times, and he knows exactly what you're saying. And
okay, so now we've got all these kids in prison that had to plead guilty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad. It's really sad.
Well,
I did a podcast, or I did a, what do you call it? I don't know what you call it, but I did it, and it was a surviving guide to prison. And I did it with, God, I forget his name. It's a family, and his sister's very, very famous, and he's famous. And, oh, my God, I forget his name.
The Osmonds.
Anyway. No, not the Osmonds.
He's famous, and his sister's very, very famous.
My burglar alarm. Hey, stop it.
Somebody, so the guy's famous.
Anyway, so we did this, and I said the same thing. I got a letter from the district attorney telling me to retract that. I said, hell no.
Right.
Because this is the truth.
What was last question, Danny? In the movie, by the way, Inmate Number One's a great documentary, The Rise of Danny Trejo, and it's available now on all digital platforms and on demand as well. What was
iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon?
And there. And did you? What was ethnically? What was the prison like when you were there? What was it comprised of? Did the groups have to stay with their own group? How did that work?
Yeah. If most of the people in prison are Latin, Latino, and African American, that's the population. Okay, who did it? Who did I do it with? The
director?
Yeah, the producers, whatever.
Matthew Cook.
Who?
Matthew Cook.
No.
Jesse Williams.
But a famous sister. Well, Eric Roberts is a famous
Patricia Arquette
sister.
was in it.
Patricia Arquette? David Arquette.
Let me see it. David Arquette. God, man. I'm going to hire him better.
That's
You're
right.
my assistant.
Yeah.
David Arquette. We did this. It was acclaimed. It was unbelievable. He did a great job. Man, he did a really great job.
So the prison was black and Hispanic? Did all the blacks and Hispanics have to stay with their own group?
Yes, absolutely. And usually the whites will end up with the Mexicans, will come more of the Mexicans because whites and blacks hate each other, you know.
So in prison, right. So the whites were the minority, but they would have to take up with the Mexicans to sort of pick a group.
Yeah, most of the time. Now since the AB, the Aryan Brotherhood's come out, it's like they're pretty strong. They've gotten pretty strong. It's a lot more. Well, the reason, again, there's a lot more poor white guys going to the prison.
Was there was there violence in the groups, black on black, Hispanic on Hispanic, or was the violence always Hispanic and the black? Or you know,
well, if a Hispanic did something wrong, you know, he got tagged. He got tagged, whether it was, you know, Mexican on Mexican or black on, you know, they get tagged. You do something wrong. You know, the biggest problem is that envy, jealousy, you know, those are rampant. You know what I mean? And the Mexican mafia kind of held things down for a long time as far as you got to get permission to kill somebody, you know, that kind of stuff.
Wow. The doc is amazing. The story is unbelievable. And anybody who is listening to this thinking, how do I get from where I am now to where I'd like to be? Watch this inspirational tale. And
I think, Adam, if you want to like really learn what happens, get Edward James Olmos on your show and ask him about American Me, that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he'll do it. I don't think he'll come on because he really got in trouble. You know, it's like really
he did
dumb thing. Yeah.
What happened to him?
Well, basically, he lied, said he had permission to do this movie from Joe Morgan, the leader of the Mexican mafia at the time, and he didn't. And so a lot of the people, I think 8 of the people on that movie that were told not to do it got killed, you know, and
really,
and they were after him for a while, so he kind of got out of Dodge and just
well, so I did not know that story. So he played famously, I think, Jaime Escalante, the math teacher, and
I know that's what I think. The problem was that me and Eddie Bunker tried to warn him. Wait a minute, dude. You know, theatrically, you're not working with theatrical people, Eddie. Cut it loose. You know? So we did Blood In, Blood Out, a movie called Bound by Honor, but we did Blood In, Blood Out, and that was okay. That was a movie that didn't say Mexican mafia. That didn't say this guy and that guy, and you know, he got some of his facts wrong, and they were pretty angry about it.
Wow. I was wondering where Edward James Olmos was, but that's where he's in exile, I guess, because he crossed the Mexican mafia.
I think he started doing I think what he's done is I think he's on the Mayans. I think he's got a part on the Mayans.
Well, we'll look into it.
So supposedly there have been attempts to extort money from Olmos. The Mexican mafia is supposedly very enraged by the film, and 3 consultants on this film were later murdered because of the false depiction of a homosexual rape scene, which offended the Mexican mafia gangsters Machismo.
Machismo, yeah.
I'll never forget when we told him, hey, you can't do that, man. He goes, well, theatrically, it looks real good because he comes back and he kills the guy. I said, you're not working with theatrical people here. You know, that's a lie. And so, but I think, you know, sometimes movie stars are like idiots.
Well, it's a crazy story, and we'll get into it a little more because I'm curious about it. Not today, but it's interesting. You know, when I did The Family Guy, Chris, and I played Death in the episode called Death Lives, I went through my wallet looking for a picture, and I pulled out a picture of Edward James Olmos just to bring it full full circle in that cartoon from 20 years ago. And I had no idea why I was carrying a picture of him. But there's a scene with me in my wallet, and I'm showing a sailor. Sorry. I'm showing a sailor a picture of the woman I'm in love with, and I pulled out 2 pictures of Edward James Olmos.
Wow.
I don't know if you can even, I don't know how the internet works, if you can find that or not, but it's weird. I've never met him, I don't think. All right, I'll buy it. Can't find it. Fine. We'll find it for another show. Danny Trejo, Inmate #1, great movie, inspirational. The Rise of Danny Trejo. You can get it on all the platforms, digital, on demand, and Xbox, and everywhere else. Danny, always great to speak to you, my friend.
Thank you. You know what? I always love being on your show. I think you're just a classy dude. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Danny. We appreciate you coming on. Last but not least, Geico. Right now, Geico is offering 15% off on motorcycle, RV policies, and, of course, car insurance as well. Get that on top of the money you're already saving at Geico. So what are you waiting for? Take care of business at Geico. There's never been a better time to switch to Geico. Save and get an extra 15% off when you switch by October 7th. Visit geico.com to learn more. That is geico.com. We have, all right, here we go. We'll play the scene from The Family Guy. Hang in and watch it, Danny. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, nice ass. Oh, sorry, no. That's Edward James Olmos' ass.
All right, you got to go back. Oh,
it's just the only thing on there was
all right. Well, there it is. Crazy. Thank you, Danny. Till next time, Adam, and you can get my book. Go to adamcarolla.com for all the live shows. Good sports coming up next. Till next time, Adam Carolla for Gina and Bald and Danny Trejo saying mahalo. Thanks, Danny.
Stick around. Adam Carolla and Dave Damashek return with good sports right after this.